Howdy everyone and welcome back to my Happy Cosplay channel. This is my first video of the year. I'm so excited to be back. I decided to take last month off because I'm making a cosplay tutorial book. Making a cosplay tutorial book has been a big dream of mine, but I've just never had time to seriously work on it between my full-time job and making costumes, making tutorials, filming and editing these videos. I just didn't have any time to work on it. So that's why I decided to take that break to make some serious progress on the book. I'm happy to say that I am completely done writing the book, and I've also taken all the photos for it. Now I am in the stage where I am editing all the photos and formatting everything. This whole bookmaking process feels so new and exciting and challenging and scary, and I am so excited about it, and I really have the cosplay community and of course you to thank for encouraging me to make this book. So thank you so much. And while I was away, I also made this set of Gordon Freeman armor. I just love the look of this armor. It's so bright and sci-fi and nostalgic at the same time. I just love the look of it, and I'm so excited to show you how I made it. Today I'll be showing you how I made the chest and the back armor, so with that, let's go ahead and head over to the crafting table. First things first, let's make a pattern for it. For non-form-fitting armor like this, I like using a stiffer paper as a base for my pattern. I got a roll of brown paper from my local home improvement store and cut out a squarish shape roughly the width of my shoulders. I personally like cutting a hole in the paper where my head can stick through, and so I can wear it like this. Then I can look in a mirror and figure out what shapes I need to draw. Since the front of my chest piece is symmetrical, I'm drawing an approximate line down the middle of my chest, and I'm sketching the details onto one side. If your chest piece shape calls for it, you can fold a dart into the paper like I'm doing here. You can even use a piece of tape to hold that fold in place while you draw on that paper too. In this case, I decided not to tape the dart because I can see the dart crease in the paper, and I'll be using that as a guide to where I can cut out that dart later. Making darts or not making darts is totally up to you and your armor design. Once I have my sketch drawn, I like going over the lines with a bolder marker so I don't get confused later when I'm cutting everything out. Now that I have my basic chest armor design drawn, I can cut it out. This includes cutting out the dart I folded into the paper earlier. If you guessed tracing the pattern onto some 10mm foam was the next step, you would be correct. I'm tracing it once, and then flipping it over and tracing it onto the other side so the middle seams meet. By the way, all the EVA foam supplies for this costume had been generously provided by Lumen's Workshop. I'm not a paid sponsor, but I can genuinely say that they have some of the best foam and foam accessories I've used in a while. After tracing my chest pattern, I'm using a sharp craft knife and cutting it out. After the chest piece is cut out, I'm beveling the darted seams with a craft knife so they stick together at an angle when I glue them together. Now I'm cutting the collar part of the pattern and tracing it onto the base piece. Before tracing the rest of the pattern details onto the base, I'm gluing the dart pieces together using barge. I like using 2 coats of barge because it helps the pieces stick together better. Now that the bottom pieces are glued back together, I can cut the collar piece and bevel those inside edges with the craft knife as well. Just like the bottom pieces, I'm barging these together as well. After trying on what I constructed so far, I decided to cut away some of the excess foam from the outside of each side of the chest. You can adjust as you go by cutting away what you need and then flipping that excess piece over and tracing it onto the other side. You can also make adjustments by measuring each side of your piece and cutting little by little. Now that I have the base piece of the chest constructed, it's time to add all the extra details. This part may look complicated, but you're just making paper patterns like before, only on a smaller scale. I'm tracing them onto EVA foam, cutting them out, adjusting as needed, and then applying them to the chest. I like rounding some of the edges with my rotary tool as well. This will give the pieces a more even and finished look. By the way, the foam half dowels from Lumen's Workshop saved me so much time while applying details. In the past, I would have to carve and cut my own foam half dowels, which took forever. I used these dowel bits on some of the details around the chest, back, and on the arm and neck hole parts. Next, I'm using some DAP gap filler to fill in some of my seams. I apply it, smooth it out with my fingers, and use some water to help smooth it down more. Now it's time to create the iconic lambda symbol that goes in the center of the chest. And guess what? I finally own a printer. So I printed off the Half-Life lambda symbol, cut it out, and transferred it onto 2mm EVA foam. Then I used super glue to stick it in place. To create the back piece, I repeated the same techniques I used to make the chest piece. The only difference between making a chest and a back piece on this project was where they were worn. I mean, of course the details were different, but I made darts, traced the patterns onto foam, beveled edges, rounded edges, cut out detail pieces, and glued everything down all the same. Then I used gap filler to fill in some of the seams. Prior to priming, you can heat seal your foam by going over it lightly with a heat gun. This will also help get rid of those foam fuzzies that may be left over from using a rotary tool on your piece. To prime the armor, I added 3 coats of Plasti-Dip to the pieces. Plasti-Dip is my favorite way to prime foam before painting. And now that the Plasti-Dip is dry, it's time to add some base coats. I used Rust-Oleum spray in the color Rustic Orange to cover the orange parts. I used about 3 coats of this paint until I was satisfied with the coverage. Some prefer to mask their armor before painting it like this, but in this case, I didn't find it necessary. It's totally up to you though. For the rest of the base coats, I brushed on some Vallejo acrylic paint. For the silver parts, I used a mix of the colors Gunmetal and Plata Silver. For the brown parts, I used the color Chocolate Brown, and for the neck and armhole details, I used the color Bloody Red, mixed with a little bit of black. For the lambda symbol, I used the color Sun Yellow. Now it's time for the best part! Weathering! First, I airbrushed on some black shadows to the creases and edges of the chest and back. If you don't have an airbrush, no worries at all, you can skip this part. Next, I like using an acrylic wash on my armor. I do this by mixing black paint and water and brushing it on all parts of my armor. Then I use a paper towel and dab away some of the mixture. Doing this in layers and in different weathering colors is an easy way to create a dirty, weathered look. Additionally, I like using a smaller detail brush and applying blacks and dark browns in crevices and seams. I also do this in places where I know dirt and grime would build up over time. To add an extra pop, I like feathering on some metallic gray spray paint on the edges of my armor using a chip brush. This gives the illusion that paint and grime has been scratched off the surface and some shiny metal is peeking through from beneath. While I weather these pieces, I would like to thank my patrons. Your support makes videos and costume projects like this possible. And when you join me on Patreon, you get to see exclusive behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and access to my Discord community. And right now, when you join, you're gonna get early sneak peeks of my tutorial book progress as well. So thank you for your support. Next up is strapping. Honestly, this is my least favorite part, but also it's kind of the most important because I mean, how the heck else are you gonna wear your armor if you can't keep it on your body? But anyway, for strapping pieces like this, I like using elastic, Velcro, and buckles. I picked up these big ol' slide release buckles from Joann's, which I'll be using for the shoulder straps. I cut out enough elastic to string through the buckle and to fix through the inside of the armor. To make sure the elastic doesn't move around too much, I sewed the elastic in place after stringing it through the buckles. Now it's time to stick the buckles to the inside of the armor. And I do this by making a foam sandwich. Here's how you make your very own delicious foam sandwich. For strapping, of course, not for eating. Put down some hot glue in the area where you want to put your strap, and then stick elastic on top of it. Put down more glue on top of the elastic, and then press a layer of foam on top of it. After the glue cools, add a layer of super glue around the edges. And ta-da! Foam sandwich. I know this looks crazy, but I've never had a strap pop off after doing this. You can totally use the same strap method on the sides as well, but I decided to strap the sides using Velcro. I measured where I wanted to add my Velcro and then super glued some industrial Velcro to each opening of the side pieces. Then I added some extra super glue around the edges of the Velcro to add some extra security. And now that everything is strapped, I can put it on. And here's what the chest armor looks like once it's all done. I've noticed that foam chest armor can be a lot like getting a new pair of shoes. The more you wear it, the comfier it gets, and the more it conforms to your body's shape. I hope that you can use some of the techniques I showed you here to make some cool armor of your own. This week's Makers of the Week include Andrew D. Cleft, who is working on this awesome Mortal Kombat armor. He looks so cool. I love all the details. It's looking amazing so far. Dearsy Cosplay showed me this Jibril cosplay that she just finished. It looks awesome. I love the wings. Thank you so much for showing me your hard work. Madame Procrastination, I love that, made this really neat dragon head for a cosplay she's working on. I am loving the construction, the craftsmanship, the paint job. It's looking fantastic. Thanks so much for showing me. If you have something that you're working on that you're really proud of, whether it's construction or if it's done or if it's cosplay or a painting or whatever, I would love to see what you're working on. My Instagram and Twitter are both Zombies Workshop. I'm excited to see what you're making. Seeing what you guys create makes my day. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, I do hope you will hit that subscribe button below because I would love to see you back again next time. I'll see you soon. Bye everyone.